All right, so Dan,
I'm
you're
ready.
reading all the news stories?
I got them on a notepad thing over here.
Reporter Dan.
That's no. If I was ever a reporter, no one should ever listen to me. If I'm talking about news, I know jack shit. If I'm talking about whiskey, I know a little more than jack shit.
A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Gold Eagle Jake.
Tonight we've got some news, and then we're going to talk a little bit about brands and how some of them are kind of moving out of their wheelhouses and whether it's a good or bad idea in some of the cases. Because we're whiskey industry analysts.
That we are.
Professional ones.
Professional pundits, I
Mhm.
believe is the term.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't done a old-fashioned news story in a long time.
No, we
Yeah,
never
not in a
start
while.
every episode with one.
Yeah. And we just kind of got lazy and tired and didn't do research anymore, and look what happened.
Yep.
So we're back.
It is the time of year, though, where a lot of new stuff is going to be coming out, or not a lot of new stuff, but a lot of your annual releases come out. But as of recent, there has been a few things that have come along. So we've talked about celebrity whiskeys before. There is going to be a new celebrity whiskey coming sometime, who knows when, with Buffalo Trace, which is even more scarce. They don't usually do the celebrity hype train things.
Very, very interesting partnership, and even more interesting that it is with Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, that's kind of shocking because they don't come off as that kind of distillery at all.
Yeah.
No. But the news that is coming out is that they are going to be working on a new. Did they say whiskey or bourbon? I'm not sure what the exact wordage was in the article.
I don't know if it's specified.
I thought it was bourbon. They said it was going to be kind of similar to Buffalo Trace, and
it makes more sense if it's bourbon. But they will be collaborating with country singer and best national anthem singer of all time, Chris Stapleton. Will be coming out with a whiskey sometime. I think the biggest thing on that is that it's Buffalo Trace.
January 2024.
So soon-ish.
That's what I saw. But yeah, that is it's pretty surprising, Buffalo Trace. I mean, does this tell us that they have just a lot of whiskey coming down the pipeline? Or are they still trying to spread themselves thin to keep the demand?
I mean, so the brand is called Traveler Whiskey. It does not say anything about specific so hold on.
Good thing we did this beforehand.
The blend, crafted by Buffalo Trace master distiller Harlan Wheatley, is bottled at 90 proof.
But it also says Chris Stapleton had a major role, apparently, in creating the blend.
He was involved in the tasting and testing of the blends. So that makes me think that it could just be more of the abundant barrels that they have that would probably have gone to stuff like Benchmark or Ancient Age.
I mean,
maybe?
I'm sure it is. Yeah, it's not like they're doing a separate secret mash bill for him. It's just extra leftover barrels.
Mm-hmm.
Harlan probably creates a big blend and he tastes them, and
so you guys brought up points. Are they just getting rid of extra barrels or trying to keep their things scarce? There's a third option that just kind of crossed my head of one thing that I will always applaud Buffalo Trace for is that even though their products go for crazy amounts of money on secondary market, they keep their prices on their normal wine, very, very low and very, very affordable at retail pricing.
Yep.
As of late, the only thing they released that had a high price on it was the Daniel Weller Emmer Wheat.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they're trying to make some offshoot things that they can tie in with something else to make the label sound like it should be worth more and charge more money and try and take up some of the extra cash that's been thrown at whiskey within the last few years with the new label, new name.
But like
they maybe come out with this as like a $50 or $60 bottle that's basically the same as Buffalo Trace that you can get for $36.
Like a lot of the other celebrity bourbons though are not that expensive.
And they're not.
I would say they are.
Wait, so I read an article that said this is going to be the same price as Buffalo Trace.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So they said it's going to be around like the $26 price range, which I do think is very shocking because they could charge $100 and this thing would sell out everywhere.
Probably. Yeah.
But it is going to be a 90 proof. That's also what I read. So it's probably going to taste very similar to Buffalo Trace. Maybe it's a tad younger. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I applaud them especially Chris Stapleton for making this partnership with Buffalo Trace and not just going to Dickel or MGP and just buying a bunch of barrels and, slapping something together, or even worse, go get some additive tequila and put his name on it.
Yeah. There's been a couple things that he's kind of done some nods to Buffalo Trace, like in 2021 he donated $18,000 or an $18,000 bottle of E.H. Taylor's single barrel to a bourbon raffle, which I think translates to somebody paid $18,000 for that bottle.
Yeah. I think he did something else too with them.
I want to say he donated to the tornado relief fund,
probably
that hit Kentucky a year or two ago. He's been fairly involved in that area, I think, in the past couple of years. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see. Even though he has a song called Tennessee Whiskey.
Yeah, good point.
He's gonna change the song to Traveler Whiskey now.
Yeah. Can't sing it anymore.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know. That's actually a cover of a George Jones song, which I thought was kind of interesting. That. Yeah,
and it's
the George Jones song is way different though.
And there was another
and everything.
There's another song called Tennessee Whiskey that was by a small country band I saw once, 1,000 Horses or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They had a song called Tennessee Whiskey as well too. That was probably 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so another country star, you have obviously Brothers Osborne with Whistle Pig. You have Brad Paisley with American Highway.
Yeah, which I was going to say, I think that American Highway is the most expensive celebrity bottle that I can think of, at least.
Peyton Manning has one.
Peyton Manning?
His is expensive.
I guess he's not necessarily a country star.
I mean, if we're just talking... I'm just talking celebrities in general. His is $175.
Metallica has Blackened.
Mm-hmm.
Slipknot has a whiskey. Motorhead has a whiskey. There's quite a few rock bands, I feel like, that have whiskey labels. And most of those are fairly affordable. Blackened is what, $40-$45, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Blackened is also kind of that's not Metallica that started that. That was kind of just a partnership.
Yeah.
But
I mean, most of them are.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I don't know. Don't quote me on this, but the Motorhead one is just more or the American Highway one is just, let's throw some barrels in my trailer and drive it around, and here's my whiskey.
Yeah,
I want to see you at a country concert, Jake. I think you'd be
I don't go to country concerts.
I want to see you in a cowboy hat, boots, Like, I want to see you decked out to the
I'll wear a
nines with
cowboy
flannel.
hat, but I don't go to country concerts.
Grateful Dead's not too far off from country, really.
That's very far off. That's not even close.
I will say though, the Slipknot whiskey is actually pretty good.
That's the Iowa one.
Yeah, it's distilled in
Got
Iowa.
that Iowa corn in it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
I enjoy that one, especially the Reserve. The Reserve is really good.
Another news story, Basil Hayden, some people love, some people hate, are coming out with a malted rye.
Gold Eagle just got it.
Gold Eagle just got it, so
I'd be excited to try it.
A big Basil fan. I myself am not a big fan of malted rye. I tried a few, and even the Hard Truth one. I love their rye, but was not a fan of their malted rye. But I'm not a big rye fan in the first place.
Yeah.
But Basil will have a malted rye. They've been expanding their product line over the last couple of years with some of these offshoot things.
Yeah, quite a bit
that have been sticking around.
Yeah.
And the one nice thing about them is that none of their stuff is like hard to find. Like when they make one of those like new expressions, it's like everybody's gonna get it. You know?
Yeah. You can tell like they prep for a nationwide big release.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. But that's also because most people who are into collecting and searching for whiskey don't care for Basil Hayden.
Yeah. Basil Hayden, I think I've always described it as a good starter whiskey. If you're
I'm actually surprised none of us put that.
I thought about
in our starter. I thought about it too, but it's just too low proof.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like that's the thing that you drank for the first time and were like, I might like whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So it's moving past
so
that.
Smooth.
Yes.
The only time I drink it anymore is my brother-in-law a couple of years ago decided he was going to get into whiskey, and he asked around to figure out what to get. He bought a bottle of Basil Hayden. He came home, he poured himself a Basil Hayden, sat on the couch, took a sip, and then went and grabbed a beer and said he's not a whiskey guy. So whenever I go to their house, there's a bottle of Basil Hayden at least that I can sip on. So
I do like the 10-year. The 10-year is pretty good.
The 10-year is really good. But
still doesn't do it for me at 80 proof.
The rum cask finish rye is unbelievably good.
That was actually the only one that I think I legitimately enjoyed.
Yeah, thank God Dan found a bottle at some random liquor store. Yeah, that's the only example of one that they made once and never made again. I'm upset about it, and I want them to rectify that.
So many people still ask for that. I don't know why they stopped.
Yeah,
nobody wants that dark rye. No.
You are all welcome.
Should be like a no-brainer for them to be able to produce too. Like
I know.
What are you guys' thoughts on the malted ryes?
I typically enjoy them. I know Jake probably really enjoys them.
I like them a lot. Smoke Wagon malted rye is excellent. I want to say that New Riff has a malted rye.
New Riff, yep,
that I enjoy thoroughly.
It's very good.
I liked the Hard Truth malted rye. It's typically I want to say the malted rye is a lot more like floral, and like that's. I mean, I'm not picky with my rye flavor profiles.
The Smoke Wagon malted rye is like extremely floral.
Yeah, right.
A lot of them can be like just kind of more sweet. You know, think of like just less spicy. Just not that you would You wouldn't expect it in a rye how little bit of spice it has. It's kind of like the Old Elk bourbon, such a high malt content. Mm-hmm. You get like no spice, just very creamy, easy. That kind of what it does to rye. So it's a good. I think it might be like a good intro to rye if you find the right one. Like the New Riff one is a really good example.
Because like, I'm not a biologist or a botanist or whatever the hell.
Well, obviously when you explain it that way, we all realize that you're not.
But like, so when you malt something, you're a grain, you're like wetting the grain, and then it like opens up and starts developing some of the sugars within the grain because it's starting to sprout. It's basically you're forcing the grain to sprout. And that's what creates that like sweeter note. You're getting closer to that kind of corn sweetness that bourbon is known for when you malt the grains. So there's your biology lesson for the night.
Yeah, thanks for the lesson there, Jake.
You're welcome. That's why I'm here.
Your optometry lessons are great.
I enjoy that. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Mm-hmm.
Minus the fancy terms.
See, there's two smart people on the podcast, and we're always right.
I was waiting for that.
I don't know. I've never been a big fan of the malted grains too much. I don't know. Something about the flavor profile that doesn't sit right with me. But the one thing, like we talked about with Basil Hayden, is when they come out with stuff, it's usually if it's the first shipment to the store, is usually going to go pretty quick. But usually the subsequent ones, there's enough there. It's not one that you need to rush to a store. Unless you really, really, really want it, rush to a store. But if you get there and they're out within a month or two, they usually will have more stuff back on the shelf. So,
yeah. And so I think it's interesting that there's like, where are all these expressions coming from? And they're all like different mash bills. They're not just different finishes or blends.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obviously doing a lot of experimenting and using kind of Basil Hayden as the experimentation line.
Yeah, and like Basil's like the youngest of the whole Jim Beam product line. Right?
Youngest and the lowest proof. So you can get away with a whiskey that might not be ready, because it's only 80 proof. So I'm excited to see where they're going to go. I'm sure they let some stuff go and age longer, and they're going to do some kind of higher proof experimental release.
Mm-hmm. It would be cool to see a Basil Hayden cask strength at some point. Just
I don't think they'll do
what
that.
That's like.
I mean, they should, but I don't think they will. They'll come out with another bottle, a new brand.
Yeah.
It'll be the same thing, but a new brand.
Yeah. What else you got, Dan?
One, you really can't call them a distillery. One blender that we all really like
Hold up. What? I got to pause for a second.
All right.
While we're recording this podcast live, Jake just bought a bottle of Basil Hayden malted rye. I just got the notification that we got an order, so I went and checked it, and it was Jake buying a bottle of Basil malted rye.
Hey, I mean, you said you got it in, so
we did.
God.
I was wondering if you were going to see
I don't really like. The only thing I like from Basil was really the 10-year.
That's funny.
Oh man!
All right, I just put in a little discount for you, and I guess I'll drop a coupon code for everyone else.
There we go.
If we still have the Basil malted rye, let's do BM malted for 10% off a Basil Hayden malted rye. BM malted.
You're welcome, America.
Yeah. You're welcome.
That's hilarious.
That's funny. All right, yeah. Sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
So that's a great interruption. One of our favorite blenders just had a ribbon cutting today. This was on September 20th of their new facility for barrel spirits, and it's 500% larger than their previous facility.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So when you talk about, now obviously they're a lot smaller, but you're talking a lot of these bigger distilleries are doubling production. They're expanding theirs by 500%. Which is good because I think we're all pretty big fans of most of their, if not all of their expressions they come out with.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different blenders, barrels kind of taking the lead the last couple of years of probably being the best known blender out there, and now they're going to be probably quickly putting out lots and lots more things.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I didn't read into it too deeply to see if they're just going to have bigger batches, more batches, or if they're going to start to have some like common SKUs out in the market that are the same thing more like the Armida, Seagrass, Dovetail, things like that.
I think they're going in the direction of more larger batches, more consistency. I was actually lucky enough to be down in Kentucky last weekend for the ribbon cutting ceremony and got to go and check out the new facility. And let me just say, it is tiny compared to any other major Kentucky distillery that we normally talk about or go to. But it's really nice. They have some huge tanks, some really nice like conference rooms and blending rooms. But I did hear that they're going to be coming out with like a 90 proof bottle, which is pretty kind of shocking. And we could talk about that for a little bit. And I also heard that they're going to be cutting back on a little bit of like the experimentation and getting more on like a consistent regular release pattern with only doing like a few offshoots here and there.
Okay. Yeah, so
So
that
it
kind of
seems like
leads
they're
us
kind of changing directions quite heavily with this new facility.
Yeah, so that leads us into the theme of this episode, which is kind of like brands in their wheelhouse, and when they go outside of that wheelhouse, whether they are like good or bad decisions. I think this is a great one to start with because
I agree.
It's very controversial for those of us that really enjoy barrel, because one of the things that they consistently preach is barrel strength or cast strength or high proof, in order to maintain as much flavor as possible, as much of the blend's flavor profile as possible. So this decision to start releasing a lower proof blended whiskey, I think, is very off-brand for them. Though I do have like high hopes that it'll still be good. I just don't know if that's like the right direction if I were them.
No, I mean, I think it'll be good. I know it'll be good, but I think it's a really bad move for them. I mean, they preach barrel proof cask strength. The reason why the distillery started was one of the owners or the owner, liked barrel proof bourbon. He liked cask strength stuff. So his complaint was, why don't we have more of this? So we're gonna focus on bringing you whiskey that has been cut or altered. And so I think it's a very off-brand move, but I do think it's a good move to kind of cut back a little bit on all the different experimentation and just over flooding the market with different SKUs, because it's just kind of it's just overloaded for the average consumer
Right.
to process. They'll find one thing they like, they go back and they can never find anything like it again. And they do have kind of a wider reach now and a more respected name nationwide and worldwide, so it makes sense to kind of scale up the stuff that's working and that people already really like, and kind of take a little backseat to the smaller batch experimentation stuff, I think.
Yeah, I feel like the better decision would have been for them to pick a higher proof point, like 115 or 120, and try and blend to that proof point and make that a flagship product.
Yeah, I don't know. I still like the batches. I still like.
Well, I think putting the batches out, 2 or 3 times a year, I think is still what they should do. But they should have like a flagship product. That's
they kind of do with their.
But well, so one of the things that they say specifically, but I mean, they specifically say the batches are not consistent on purpose. And like if part of their like goal is to reach some sort of consistent like flagship product, then they should do that at high proof, not low proof.
Yeah, I think it's the downfall of becoming bigger. There's always multiple sides to the story of business. And I mean, Jake, we talked about it the other day with our boy Zach Bryan going on tour for next year, but going through Ticketmaster, and now tickets are crazy expensive. But for him to play in big venues, he has to play in the venues that are big, which are all handshake deals with Ticketmaster. I think they're running the same thing here. Is there's a lot of demand for their product, and they see that they have swayed the majority of your big bourbon drinkers that prefer cast strength barrel proof, and they've hit products that play really well in that group. But then they're also neglecting probably a larger part of the whiskey market. I think more people drink 100 or less than 100 or than over 100 proof.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So
but they've kind of just, I don't know, they've built their name on just, not caring about that and just being the sophisticated whiskey drinkers, bourbon.
Yeah, I mean,
the more advanced.
Their accolades like really speak for the brand overall. Like almost every batch wins a gold medal at San Francisco whiskey
schmaccolade,
and
but they do have a good reputation. But I mean, they're very consistent. They're very consistent. Every single blend is really good. Yes. Every single blend does well in competitions. Yes, they probably enter every competition, but they consistently score well. So they I think they mastered, they kind of mastered as their number one or two what people think of when they think of like one of the the top blender for American whiskey.
Yeah, and like I get wanting to do a lower proof because you can take a blend that's, and like this is completely made up, but take a blend at cast strength that's like 1,000 bottles. If you bump that down to 90 proof, you're talking like 2,000 or 3,000 bottles maybe. Mm-hmm. So you get to push a lot more product with the same amount of whiskey, and water's pretty much free. So it's a good way to expand your volume.
The only part of this that I agree with is to get someone to buy your bottle who is like, oh, I don't like barrel because I don't like high proof. I'm a Basil Hayden drinker. I'm a 90 proof drinker. I don't like barrel because I don't want to spend that much money on a bottle, and I don't like high proof anyway. Right. So, but I think that kind of just shows that Stellum didn't really do as well as they thought, because that was supposed to be their intro label. And now they're realizing, no, we need to put something out under the barrel name.
Yeah. Now, here's the other side.
Though, Stellum was higher proof too, wasn't it?
It was too, but it was lower price point. So it was like their way of getting people, all right, here's what we can do. Now let's get you to upgrade into barrel.
Right.
So I guess, what about the other side of this? What if we did a blind taste test with the new barrel at 90 proof versus Elijah Craig's small batch, and in a blind you completely love the one and it turns out to be Barrel Craft Spirits at 90 proof?
But I've been saying since the beginning of this episode that I know it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good, but it's just not. It's not their brand. It's not what they preach about, and it's not why they started. Like since day one, they've been all about just cash strength blending.
Yeah.
Well, like I feel like saying
this is America.
It's
this is America, and it doesn't need to be cast strength. If it's cash strength, homie.
Well, I don't want to accuse them of selling out, but that's the
I don't think they're selling out
vibe I think it gives.
I think their intention is to get more people into the brand and drinking the brand, because they're never going to be your barbecue or your tailgate whiskey.
No, no.
So this is getting them so much more exposure, and getting their bottles into the hands of a lot more people. So that is why I think this is a good move. But as a whiskey, connoisseur and someone that's a little more into it than the average person, it kind of hurts a little bit to see them go this far off brand and off motto.
So your butt hurt.
is like
no, but I just think like they had a good thing going. They're that's what they were known for, and now they're not going to be anymore.
It's like when Metallica came out with the Black Album and everyone was pissed and said they sold out.
Yeah. Well, it's like for me, like you walk into a store and you see a barrel bottle, like I don't really need to taste it. I know it's going to be good. I can just pick it up and grab it. I know I'm getting a high proof spirit, cast strength product, because that's what you think of when you think of barrel.
Right. My other music metaphor is when John Mayer joined the Grateful Dead and everyone was like, this is bullshit.
Well, that's a whole nother episode we could talk about.
let's not do that episode, please. Ever. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I get the point they preach on that. To me, though, at the end of the day, like I still view them more of a very good blender of whiskey, and if they can make blends of whiskey at any proof as good as they've been currently making them, that's good for the whiskey industry, and that's good for whiskey consumers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If
I'm torn.
So what
I want to see what the listeners think about this one.
Yeah, what I would like to see them do is what they're doing with Fox and Odin and do the brandy proofing on a cast strength blend down to 90 proof and see how that comes out.
Hopefully
that's what
they
I'd like
do.
to see out of them. Because Fox and Odin, I think, has shown that you can get an extremely or very close flavor profile to cast strength in a lower proof whiskey. Granted, they're like 99 proof for like their bourbon and rye, but like that's it's doable to keep flavor without like sacrificing or to lower your proof point without sacrificing flavor.
Yeah. Kind of speaking on that same topic, there's going to be a new bourbon on the market from someone that's never made bourbon before, but is a pretty well-known distillery. So in Louisville, which is obviously unofficially bourbon capital USA, there's been a distillery there since the mid-2010s called Copper and Kings, and they are a brandy distillery. I looked them up. They use Vendome copper stills out of Louisville. They are going to be releasing their first bourbon, not switching away from brandy, but instead of doing brandy all the time, they're now going to be doing whiskey. I'm not big into brandy or cognac. About the only time I drink brandy is when I go to a Wisconsin supper club and order an old fashioned and accidentally forget to tell them not to make it like crap.
Yeah, why would you ever do that?
And that's when I end up with brandy in my glass. So I'm not big on brandy, but it's interesting to see a distillery in the heart of bourbon country that didn't make bourbon and is now switching over to bourbon. Your guys' thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that's kind of.
Go ahead, Jake.
I think that's a no-brainer decision for them. Like, if you've already established your name as a brandy maker, I think the transition to bourbon makes complete sense.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know a ton about them, but I know that they obviously started in the bourbon capital of the world, and started making brandy, which probably is not popular at all down in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And they were successful. So props to them on kind of doing something a little different and succeeding with it. And it's very cool that they're already respected in Kentucky. Which like they don't drink any scotch. Like you'll never find any scotch whiskey down in Kentucky. They're all about bourbon. So that, just kind of adds to their fuel on how successful they've been in a bourbon dominated state. But yeah, I think they have every right to come out with a bourbon. They already have a huge following, and everyone who's a fan of their brandy is going to be searching for the bourbon. Bourbon people are going to be searching for the bourbon. So I think it's kind of a matter of time, as long as they don't, get away from what they started off, as long as they don't get away from their roots, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, I mean, the majority of companies we always talk about have always been whiskey. Now, some of them have branched off into single malts and things of that nature as well. But it'll be interesting. And I guess Castle and Keys kind of a little bit different as well with doing both bourbon and gins and vodkas pretty well. I mean, Sazerac has Wheatley vodka things
Yeah,
too.
I mean,
but
I think gins and vodkas are, every
flavorless.
distillery pretty much does gins and vodkas.
Yeah.
Brandy's a little different. Like something aging in oak outside of whiskey in Kentucky or outside of bourbon in Kentucky is a pretty big deal. But yes, where you were probably going with that was all the American single malt that's coming out from all these Kentucky distilleries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how kind of an opposite way of someone branching into bourbon instead of a bourbon company branching out of bourbon. So
right.
Be a fun little experiment, I guess, to see. But I don't, like I said, I don't know too much about it. I do know that, I mean, when you look at their stuff, all their stuff is made in Louisville. Vendome is a Louisville company, so they look a lot. If you looked at their distillery, it would look just like a normal distillery for whiskey.
Yeah.
But they've been doing brandy, and now they're going to switch over. So it'll be interesting to see. I definitely want to. That'll be one that hopefully someday will be at the bar at Gold Eagle for tasting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I can see what that would taste like.
Yeah. One of the other things I want to highlight in a brand kind of shifting outside their wheelhouse that I'm going to shamelessly promote again is Jack Daniels with their bonded line. So last year, Jack Daniels bonded bourbon was my whiskey of the year. They released the bonded rye this year, and like I said in the last episode, this is a contender for me for whiskey of the year for 2023. Dan,
I'm pretty sure that
skeptical.
was mine, and Jake picked something else. No, I'm pretty sure Jack Bonded was my whiskey of the year, and you took something else last year, Jake. I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Jack Bonded was mine, and you want something else. So,
well, it was what I wanted.
Step off.
So, but this is, and I've said this on episodes before. I don't know why they didn't do this a long time ago. Like the Jack Daniels brand is basically Old Number 7, which is like just 90 proof bar swill.
Jack and Coke, whiskey and Coke.
They have the stocks to do this and much more. And like the limited editions are one thing, like whatever, they can get away with those, but like why they haven't done something. I think Gentleman Jack came out in like 1989 or 1990, and they literally didn't release another core product until Jack Bonded last year, which is like unfathomable to me. Especially considering they have like an unbelievable number of warehouses just filled with whiskey.
You got to remember too, though, a lot of these distilleries 20 years ago, whiskey was not popular. American whiskey was not really popular. Right. So, they just didn't have a lot laying down. They don't have a lot of expansion, and they're also, down south where they just move a little bit slower. So a lot of them just don't really care to, put in the effort. But now that they see the boom that's happening, it's obvious everywhere. It's time to do something different. And we know with whiskey, it takes a couple years to let the stuff age out how you want it to, to craft a certain expression. So,
I believe that's an absolutely fantastic decision that Jack Daniels made and probably Brown-Forman influenced. Yeah, and because these whiskeys are unbelievably good. I don't know what's different about them because I'm pretty sure regular Old Number 7 is around 4 years anyway. So I'm not sure why they're so good compared to the regular.
They haven't had 100 proof offering, because all their stuff
it is 100 proof. So
yeah, all their stuff's 90, 94. So it's a little nicer that it's a little higher proof, and it probably is aged a little bit longer, and it might be just kind of selected barrels, with all the reject barrels going into the number 7. That's what I would assume. But yeah, interesting there. I guess, what are your guys? We talked about American single malts plenty of times on the show, but how do we feel about all these bourbon distilleries in Kentucky starting to do a single malt, breaking out of the norm?
I think it's another good move. At least for them to give it a shot and see.
Yeah, but everyone's doing it.
Yeah,
there's going to be too much out there.
Yeah, but I think it's going to ruin the market.
I think it will too.
American single malts.
But I think what we might see is some of these distilleries will produce it. It won't be successful, and they'll pull it. And then I think the market will be like itself, and
it'll be like light whiskey. But the problem is, 20 years ago, all these American distilleries thought light whiskey was going to be the next big thing, so they all started distilling light whiskey, and then nobody wanted it, so then they sold it off for cheap. But now light whiskey is kind of making a little comeback, only because there's just nothing out there. When you see an off release of a light whiskey, like the Penelope one last year, everyone freaked out and went crazy for it. But
I thought it was not great.
I mean, I thought it was good, but it wasn't anything special.
Like, the thing about light whiskey
compared to other light whiskeys,
I think people are interested in light whiskey because it's much higher proof than bourbon's allowed to be, typically.
Mm-hmm.
So that generates some interest in the high proof bourbon, crowd.
And less oak. So, like, if you don't like the oak, you can get a older and higher proof whiskey without the oak. But I just brought that up because I think there's just going to be too much American single malt. A lot of these big distilleries are going to be like, you know what, we're done. It's not selling. It's not moving. And it's going to kind of ruin the entire market for American single malts. There's going to be too much out there.
There's already quite a few distilleries that have been doing this for about 10 years now. What basically
Virginia
was the American single
Company,
malt category.
Westward, Westland. Like, I think those distilleries will be fine because that's what they do and they perfected it. But I think all these bourbon distilleries that are trying to get into American single malts are making a big mistake. I mean, a couple of them will produce something well and will succeed, but I think the rest of them are making a big mistake.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty niche market, and there's so much coming in on it that it's going to be too much and not overly seeing a lot of positives out of it.
No.
I think we'll see some American single malts from all the big distilleries for a few years, maybe 5 to 10 years. They won't be super successful, so they'll pull them.
5 years.
And then MGP is just going to be an American single malt juggernaut, and it's going to pump out some like standard single malt products, and that'll be your $20 American single malt.
If they come out with a single malt and people don't like it, that will be the end of American single malt.
That's probably true.
Yep. All right, Jake, do we have another Would You Rather that came in? For those of you who haven't listened to some previous episodes, we did a Would You Rather episode, and some people sent us in some questions for us to debate. You can always do that. Feel free just to leave a comment on any of our platforms if you have a good Would You Rather question, or a bad one. If you have a bad one, we'll just talk about it and make fun of you for a bad submission.
Yeah.
If it's a good one, we'll debate it.
Yeah. So I've got 2. So both of these were submitted by Julia. Thanks again, Julia. So number 1, would you rather only have finished bourbon or only finished rye forever?
Ooh.
Mine's a simple one.
Well, we all know Dan's answer.
Well, wait.
No, I don't think you do.
We need a clarification. Does that mean we can't drink any bourbon that's unfinished, or like if we're gonna drink something finished, it has to be either bourbon or rye?
No, so
I think
You have to drink it finished. You have to drink one or the other.
Okay.
I would only drink finished
Easy
rye.
for me. You said finished rye?
Yep.
No.
So you can't have...
You're a liar.
Dan, that means you can't have bourbon that's unfinished.
Oh, that's unfinished? I thought it was either finished.
No.
It's just so if you're going to drink... so let me clarify. If you're going to drink something finished, it has to be
one of these. That's what I was asking.
Yeah,
so you can still drink unfinished bourbon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a big finished bourbon fan. I do like a rum finished rye. So I'd go with rye because there's a lot of bourbon finishes that I'm not a big fan of. So I'd go easily with rye. I'd rather have finished rye than it takes. Easy for me.
There's just too many bourbons that I like to enjoy neat to give that up, and I shit on finished bourbons all the time, so I'm gonna have to say rye.
I would agree. So let's take it to the extreme and say you're not allowed to drink anything straight that's not finished. Only finished bourbons forever, or only finished ryes forever.
Finished bourbon.
Finished bourbon, yeah.
Oh, I would go finished rye. I would drink Old Elk rum finished rye for the rest of my life and be happy.
So what's the next would you rather? That one was kind of easy.
All right. So would you rather have only low proof high aged bourbon or only high proof under 6-year bourbon?
That's a tough one.
So I'll repeat real quick. Low proof high age bourbon or high proof low age bourbon?
Jake, that means you have to give up Elijah Craig 18-year. No, because that'd be
No,
you have to give up Elijah.
I would. Yeah.
I wasn't talking about you, Jake. I was talking about Jake Gold Eagle. He loves Elijah 18 so much. I don't want him to miss it.
I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a super tough one. I think I'd probably go with the high proof lower age.
Yeah, that's the way I was leaning as well.
You would get a little more variance.
Yeah.
I think when you get in... Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about age statements aren't everything on whiskey. And yeah, you can get... I mean, hell, one of my favorite whiskeys is a 3-year-old blend. So I'll go high proof young whiskey.
For me, this is a hard one. I think I might have to go low proof high age.
I think you're doing that just to spark a debate.
No,
he's just always wrong.
The flavor profiles I gravitate towards are usually high oak, those like tobacco kind of notes, and that you really only get that from longer age.
Yeah, see, and my thought is you could always do what Dixon Deadman does and just throw it in another oak barrel. Keep it young and keep it oaky.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after you take it out of the first barrel, that's the age statement on it.
If high proof double oaks are on the table, then yeah, I'd take a low age statement, high proof double oak. But
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to buy any high proof low age whiskeys, or you're going to buy
any whiskeys,
I was gonna flip it around. You just ruined it, Jake. Just tell them where to go to find Gold Eagle.
Just buy all your whiskey at Gold Eagle. Come on.
Or buy it during the episode. Listen to the episode. Buy it
while you're recording. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Good job, Jake.
It won't.
Buy your whiskey.
It won't be the last time. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that's cool. Buy your whiskey at Gold Eagle. goldeaglewine.com, Instagram at Gold Eagle Wine, Facebook at Gold Eagle Spirits. Stay up to date with all the daily deliveries, events, tastings, and come check us out. Come to our tasting bar. Say hi to Drew, who we still got to get on an episode.
Yes, we do. Jake, where can people find us?
You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or any podcast platform. You can watch us on Spotify and YouTube. You can find us at Bourbon Matters on Instagram and Facebook. Like, subscribe, share, click the notification bell, all that kind of stuff. Leave comments. Like we've proven twice now, we will read your Would You Rathers if you want to give us some. Or if you just want shout outs, just comment on either the Spotify or the YouTube videos, and we'll shout you out.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.